Do you have a hip that sits higher than the other one? It's an alignment issue that if it goes on too long, it can cause hip and lower back pain. Good news is, with some easy do-it-yourself home exercises, you can correct the imbalance in your hips and you can get rid of the accompanying pain. My name is Eva Venes of PainFree for Life Pilates.com, located in San Diego, California. And in today's video, I would like to show you some of my favorite hip exercises that will help you correct the imbalance in your pelvis. First of all, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel for weekly content on how to eliminate chronic pain without the use of drugs and surgeries, and how to improve your strength, flexibility, and mobility. Also, check out the description box below the video, as I included some useful free information of how to move and feel better. In today's video, I'm going to take you through a series of myofascial release, stretching, strengthening, and corrective exercises to help fix the alignment issue that you're experiencing in your hips. Also, I will highlight some of the most common mistakes that you could make, so be sure to pay attention to your form and to your execution. And at the end of the video, I will tell you about my do-it-yourself online home program that you can purchase through my website, and you can continue working on your hips and on your lower back in a safe and effective way at home. Let's get to work. We are going to use a foam roller for the first exercise. When one of your hips is elevated, usually there's a lot of accompanying tightness on that side. The muscles in your lower back that pull your hip up are probably very tight, and you could be experiencing a lot of lower back and hip pain. So first things first, let's get that foam roller, and we are going to roll out the lower back. Let's say your right hip is the one that's elevated. So we're gonna start out on the right side of the body and just place the foam roller underneath the lower back, but tilt your body a little bit so you're staying off of your lumbar spine. You just want to be on the tissues above your pelvis and below the rib cage, and just right next to your spine where your kidney area is. Now tuck your pelvis under a little bit and raise your hips from your mat, and let's roll back and forth on that foam roller, massaging the tissues of the lower back. If you're pulled up in one side of your body, if one of your hips is elevated, then this could be very tender. So don't be surprised. There's nothing terribly wrong with you. It's just those tight muscles responding to the foam roller. Let's roll over that tender area at least 10 times. At home, of course, you can take your time and maybe roll a little bit longer, or repeat this foam rolling a couple of times at least a day. Now that we rolled out the lower back, let's address the hips. So you're going to cross your right foot over your left knee. Then tilt your knees to the side, end up sitting on your right butt cheek, and roll back and forth. And of course, you can roll out, or you should roll out, the other side of the lower back and the other hip as well. Just because you're pulled up on one side, it doesn't mean that the other side is not going to benefit from the myofascial release. So as you're rolling your hip back and forth, if you feel like you found a good tender spot, just stay on that spot, and maybe wiggle your body side to side a little bit to address the tissues in a different angle. If you feel like you're steady on the foam roller, then put your left hand on your right knee, pull that knee a little bit towards your shoulder, and roll back and forth. Pulling the knee across like this will open up your hip joint a little bit more, and you can get to the deep hip rotator muscles, and this will probably feel really tender, but in the same time it's going to feel really good, especially when you're done with it. Okay, let's put that foam roller to the side, and next you're going to come up in a quadruped position. Then extend your right leg out. Bring your right foot across your mat towards the left side of the mat. Walk your hands forward. Then look out underneath your right armpit, sending your right leg as far back and away from your waistline as you can. And that will give you a really delicious release in the right side of the lower back and the right hip. Then take a seat on your mat. Fold up your legs in a Z position. Now, if this is your elevated hip, then you probably feel really crammed in. You could have a hard time dropping that hip onto your mat, but that's gonna be our goal. So let's give that hip a little bit of a warm up. Put your hand on your hip and just roll that hip back and forth, loosening it up. Elongate the front of the hip. Then when you go back, think about folding the hip right in the front. Lower that hip as much as you can onto your mat. Let's just warm up the hip with a couple more of these forward and backward rotations. Then place your left hand next to you. Raise your right arm, reach over your head. Now, if this is your elevated hip, it will try and come up. So just try and keep it as close to your mat as you can. Then put both of your hands on your mat, walk them forward. And again, our goal is to keep that hip as far away from the rib cage and from the waistline as you can. Of course, it's much harder with this rib cage rotation, and as you can tell, I'm not able to keep my hip all the way down either, but you get the idea. You just want that hip away from your side body and from your rib cage. And after this delicious stretch, we are coming back up on all fours. Now look at your knees. Be sure that they are level with each other. One is not higher than the other one. Then just roll your shoulder blades back, send your sacrum back, send your sit bones back so you feel the width and the distance between them. Suck your tummy in so your lower back is supported. Then first, extend that right leg out, feel the length in the leg, feel the hip bone moving away from the lower back and from the waistline. And then raise your leg up from your mat without allowing that hip to hike up into your waistline. So just continue lengthening the waistline, lengthen the leg. Once you elevated it, go ahead and bend your knee. Now we are doing these hip circles, thigh circles, better said, without allowing much movement in the lower back and in the hip. So our goal is to keep the length of the lower back and not allowing the hip to hike up towards the waistline. If that hip is elevated, if it has been hiked up for a long time, then you're really used to it, so that's what your body will default to. You're gonna have to fight that and not let that hip hike up. Now let's go the other way. We're gonna raise the knee, then open it to the side, bring it down, and repeat. Let's do this a couple more times. Of course, repeat it on the other side as well. Let's not neglect that hip. Next, lay down on your side and just stack up your shoulders, stack up your knees. One good indication that my right hip is higher than my left hip is if I look at my knees and I see that my right knee is higher up than the left knee. So you want to line them up. Also, have a little bit of space in between your side body and your yoga mat, because if there's no space, then your hip is hiked up into your waistline. So just send that hip away, align the knees, hollow out your waistline. Then keeping your big toes touching, raise your knee as high up as you can. Don't let that little space disappear underneath your waistline, because if it disappears, that means your hip hiked up. So you have to send it away and keep the space underneath the waistline. Do about 10 repetitions at home. This is a really good corrective exercise for that hip imbalance that you're experiencing. Either you noticed it looking at yourself in the mirror, or maybe your doctor or your chiropractor, your massage therapist told you about it. Be sure that you're really mindful about it, because your body has gotten so used to elevating that hip that is your new normal. So you have to be really mindful and pay attention whether that hip is up or down. Next, let's fold up our legs in a 90-90 angle. And now you're going to switch your legs over to the other side. Try and just rotate from the hip joints, switching the legs, warming up the tight hip joint, or maybe they are both tight, not just the elevated ones. You're gonna have to try and stay as upright as you can, so the movement really comes from the hips. And if this becomes easy, you can make this a little bit more complicated. So once you switch to your legs, rise up onto your knees. Then sit back down, training that hip to bend properly. Line up your legs again, so you have your 90-90. And then let's switch over to the other side. And now we are going to come up on our knees on this side. And make sure that you build up to this, because with that hiked up hip, it's going to take a little bit to train the hip to move properly. But this will be a really good exercise for you to graduate to once your hips are ready. So these were my favorite hip imbalance correcting exercises. If you enjoyed them and you're fired up to do more work on your body and fix your hips and eliminate any accompanying pain that you're probably experiencing, head on to my website at www.painfreeforlifepilates.com. Visit the shop tab and check out my online pain elimination programs that you can do in the comfort of your own home. For this kind of hip imbalance, I would highly recommend the stretching and mobility home program, and also the lower back and sciatica home program. They will be great assets for you with more than 40 corrective healing exercises to help create more mobility in your lower back and in your hips, and also strengthen your core and build up that hip and lower back strength that you need to be moving freely and pain-free. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like more personalized guidance, also visit my website at www.painfreeforlifepilates.com and schedule a free 15-minute phone consultation so we can talk about what's going on with your body and how I can be of best help. While on my website, make sure that you sign up for my weekly newsletters as well, so you get updates on new videos and program sales and so on. If you would like to watch more videos, visit my YouTube channel and check out my playlists. Thank you for joining me today.